The Need for Speed movie released yesterday to less than stellar reviews, to say the least. I was one of the people who didn't like the film. Not surprising, the film was terrible. But you know what? Let's look on the bright side, because there are plenty of movies about racing, and that's what Need for Speed is about. So here are 5 better Need for Speed films than the Need for Speed film, in no particular order. In 5th place, first up, The Fast and the Furious. Now, of course, this had to be on the list, because not only did The Fast and the Furious revolutionize the film genre, it also basically changed the future for the Need for Speed franchise by making it all about the illegal street racings going on with the cool music and the neon lights and the cool be happening in the underground, yo. And that was the state of the series for a long while. Need for Speed has often been seen as the Fast and the Furious of video games, and a lot of people were joking that the Need for Speed film was going to be the poor man's version of the Fast and the Furious movie, not realizing that the poor man's version of the Fast and the Furious movie was Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. It's kind of funny though that the Fast and the Furious has never had a good luck with video games themselves, having had 4 games planned, the first one cancelled, the second one being a bad arcade game ported as Cruisin' for the Wii, the third one being a terrible Tokyo Drift tie-in on the PS2, and last year's Fast and Furious Showdown being so bad it's actually on the bottom list of worst 360 games on Metacritic. Nonetheless, Fast and Furious is by far one of the best examples on how you could have made Need for Speed into a film, and the first one on the list. In 4th place, a wise man once said it's not what you do, it's how you do it, and that man was Ray Stevens in Cannonball Run, one of my favorite comedies of all time, starring Burt Reynolds, Jackie Chan, Roger Moore, and it's amazing, but what has it got to do with Need for Speed? Well, if you take a look at the original Need for Speed, or basically any game prior to Underground, like Hot Pursuit, or Hot Pursuit 2, or High Stakes, which was another game in the series, you will notice that it was all about the more suave style speed racing back then, with cool cars that wasn't Japanese, like Lamborghinis. Now, the intro to Cannonball Run is basically the best Need for Speed movie in and of itself. Look at this! Isn't this exactly what you pictured in your head when you were playing Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit? Oh, you never played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Well, point of the matter is, this is what a Need for Speed film should have been. Funny, just pure good old racing, and all about winning a race. It's about a race. Do you get it, riders? Need for Speed is about racing. Racing. Cars. Vroom vroom. That kind of car. Okay? Please? In 3rd place, I wouldn't call Days of Thunder a good film. I wouldn't even call it a passable film. But you know what? It's the best Daytona USA film ever made. And I'll take a Daytona USA film over the Need for Speed film any day. Hey, it's about racing. They basically got the same poster for both movies. Hey, now swap out those NASCARs for some street cars and we have ourselves a Need for Speed film. Still not a good one, but better. In 2nd place, one of the more forgotten Need for Speed games is Need for Speed Pro Street. Now, Pro Street did something a bit different by taking the focus off of the illegal street racing to the legal street racing, where they plan to race on streets. Except they're not on streets, they're on tracks, and it's called street. I don't know how it works, I don't drive cars. Either way, there's a movie about legal street racing, not even 10 years old. That's right, Herbie Fully Loaded. Now, there are some likenesses between Herbie Fully Loaded and Need for Speed Pro Street. Like, Herbie Fully Loaded had a sentient car. Need for Speed Pro Street's cars basically had a life of their own whenever you tried to turn. It's sort of the same thing. The biggest difference is really the inclusion of Lindsay Lohan. But rather than viewing that as a loose adaptation, why not view it as an amalgamation of Pro Street's legal street racing and Underground's illegal activities on the streets? And here's a fun fact. In the film, they had to digitally downsize Lindsay Lohan's breasts because they were too big for a kids movie, according to parents. That's weird. I think we can all agree that Herbie Fully Loaded is not only a masterpiece of modern cinema, it's the movie that defines street racing. And first place goes to... Hey, remember Need for Speed Nitro? You don't? Sure, it was on the Wii, it was colorful, it was fast-paced, it was arcadey, it had really neat stuff going on, it was unlike any other Need for Speed game, and it was just completely over the top and insane, and it was fast, and it was fun, it was exhilarating. My point is a Speed Racer film, okay? No, seriously, the Speed Racer film was awesome! It was fast-paced, it was colorful, it was over the top, it was all over the place, but it had a total excitement of an arcade racer. No other film captures the feeling of playing a fast-paced racing game as well as Speed Racer. Now granted, the plot is nothing like an Need for Speed game. It's not about speed racing. It's based on an anime. It's whitewashed, it's oddly paced, it has questionable effects, it can be migraine-inducing, film causes epileptic seizures. But if you can ignore all of that and just focus on the fun of it, oh, are you in for a ride. When I want to watch a movie about racing and fun, I don't bring up my Blu-ray of Speed Racer, I bring up my VHS copy of Cannonball Run. But after that, I would bring up my Blu-ray copy of Speed Racer, because it's a blast. And no matter what you think of the film, hey, come on, at least it's not Need for Speed.